So if you missed the webinar that we just had with Tonya Hofmann, CEO of BeeKonnected, where we were able to hear her story, how BeeKonnected was her brainchild, how it's been developing and where it's going. If you missed it, we just wanted to give you an opportunity to listen again. There is a full recording access through our network website, but also I know that everyone's busy and sometimes we only have like 10 or 15-minute chunks of time. So I have broken it down to about 10 to 15-minute video clips so that you can watch it and just click right into the topics that you're interested in. So we have the introduction of Tonya, then we have the introduction to the BeeKonnected, and then the connection generator, and then there's the full length video if you want to hear more about the affiliate program. So I am going to share my screen now and meet Tonya. Okay, and also to let you know that you can connect with any of these leaders through BeeKonnected when you join. Okay, so let me get my screen here for you. And here we go.
Thank you, Ms. Goe. She's got like the coolest last name. Yay. I'm so jealous. It's going to be a lot of fun today. We're going to be covering a lot of kind of inside of how I continue to grow me personally and my business. And I've got my incredible friend and Executive Vice President of Strategic Partners with BeeKonnected, Mr. Scott Schilling. He has run around the world, and I'm talking about a person who totally grasped the whole relationship building aspect to grow your business. So, hey, how are you doing, Scott?
I'm excited to be here. How could I not want to be in such an illustrious group?
Exactly. I asked Sandy, I said, could you put together some of your top favorite people and so that we can really help them in so many different ways? And she's like, absolutely, let's do it. And so today we wanted to talk first a little bit about really how do you grow? How do you expand? One of the things that I keep finding, we all go through challenges. Have you gone through challenges, Scott?
Oh, yeah, just a few.
How about you, Sandy?
Oh, yes. That's what life is all about.
Exactly. Yeah. I've had full-blown cancer. I've been robbed and tied up when I was 6 months pregnant. And I know a lot of you are like, what? Those are just points of your life. That's just kind of a stepping stone. And everything that happens adjusts you to the point you are right now. And sometimes we look at our life right now, we're like, okay, this is not where I meant to end up. And then other times you're like, now it all makes sense. That everything is accumulated to get me to today. So I started realizing, back in 2005, I went from owning retail stores. I had 2 retail stores in Houston. We were doing about $1 million a year. And that sounds real fancy, but that's gross. So anyone who's in retail knows what I mean. And I moved to Austin with my husband, with my little daughter. I had another son. We keep expanding and doing more, right? And we started our next business in 2005. And that's where I found networking. That's where I met chambers of commerce, associations, networking groups. I'm a little bit of a go-getter. So just kind of go with me on this. I joined 50 networking groups, chambers, and associations that year. Let that soak in a little bit. So what I was doing the whole time is just meeting people. It's like going from one meeting and having one-on-ones to the next meeting, having one-on-ones. And I loved it because suddenly things started really being very clear to me about why were some people more successful than others. Now, one of the things that was really hard for me is I was an extreme introvert. And I know it's hard to believe, but just go with me on this. I just the thought of walking up to somebody and handing them my business card was like overwhelming fear. And then I suddenly realized these people were really nice. And wow, this person over here actually said that they wanted to help me. Oh my gosh, this person said they were going to refer people to me. And then I realized really quickly that it was the leaders that I needed to get to know. It was the people that stood up and was noticed. And I was like, okay, Tonya, you're 38. I was 38 back then. And I'm like, you've got to get over these fears. Standing up in front of people, speaking, you know, doing little presentations, just even the elevator pitch. Sandy, do you love elevator pitches?
I remember my first one, they said, oh, you have 30 seconds. And all I could think is 30 seconds, 30 seconds. And then I had no introduction.
I did almost the same thing. I stood up, I was like, wait a minute, I have to stand up in front of, 30 people. And all I could think of is, I don't know who I am right now, but buy something from me. And that's when I sat down. I mean, that was literally what I said. I think back on those times and when I see somebody like that, I'm like, oh, I totally get what you're going through. But I really found really quickly that it is about the leaders. And so I quickly realized I had to show up as a leader. And a lot of times it just means you're just showing up and having conversations. You're standing up, you're being heard. I used to whisper, hi, I'm Tonya Hofmann. I'm like, I don't know how anybody ever knew what I did. And so I found my voice and I learned to project. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you're like, okay, I'm going to do a Facebook Live. Yeah, the first one is a mess, right? You can't figure out how to start it. You can't figure out how to stop it. You can't figure out, how do you see the people? Every time you go in to do something, a Zoom, the first webinar I ever did, I have to share this with you because it was so brilliant. I was so used to talking to actual people and I'm looking at the camera going, I need eyeballs. And so I look, right? So I look down and my dog is there, right? He's like, you're doing fabulous. I'm like, oh, you're no help. And so I look over and my cat's there and he goes, what? Don't. Exactly. That was my audience that day. But it is about connecting to people. Not connecting just to try to sell something. And I think that's the hardest thing is, a lot of times we've got to put diapers on the baby. We've got to pay for the mortgage. And usually it's like today, right? So when we talk to somebody, we have that desperation of, I've got to make a sale today. But it never works out well because people feel that. So when I started realizing that as soon as I meet somebody, I turn it on to them on who they are. Tell me about your business. People love talking and telling, and then diving in on a specific subject. Diving in on who they are. Diving in on who they know or where they go. So a lot of times I would ask, even to this day, so where do you network? And suddenly they're like, oh, I don't know if anyone's ever asked them that, it's the caring part. Now you're also doing it to find out who is this person also connected to. So it gives you a lot of details and information. Probably the smartest thing I ever did early on, this was about the 2006, I started my own networking group. Out of the 50, I was like, I should do my own. And I quickly realized that there was a group of people that I really resonated with. And then there's people you don't. We all know those people, right? So I leave those people aside and just don't focus on them. Stop focusing on the people that are your negative. And then refocus on the people that you click well with and that are leaders. And what I did that year was I invited the top networking queens of Austin, I'm in Austin, Texas, to a private group meeting. Now, I was nobody, literally, right? how did I get them to say yes? Right? They're the networking queens. Well, first of all, I actually had meetings with them and got to know them. Then I was like, hey, Susan, I'm asking Karen and I'm asking, Susie and Sandy about getting a group together. And of course, as soon as I mentioned those ladies, she wants to be part of that group. Then I went over to Karen. I'm like, hey, Karen, Susan's going to be part of my group. You want to be a part of it. And suddenly I was connected to the most connected people. And that's why, if you haven't had a conversation with Sandy Goe, where have you been, right? These are the people that stand out and are the movers and shakers. So you find the movers and shakers. Then you take it up a notch. And then you start going outside of your immediate area. And you start connecting to people outside of your city. And then those people outside of the state. And then you go national. And then you go international. It works exactly the same way. As soon as you find somebody that you're like, hey, I think I want to go. I did a conference in, was it 2019, Scott? I can't even.
Yeah, 2019.
Thank you. It's like we skipped a whole year. I'm like, wait, what year is it right now? And I just reached out to one person that then connected me to the whole city. It's those relationships. Now, I know, Scott, you've had incredible opportunity to connect with incredible people, and it's all about relationships, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. Tremendously blessed to share the stage with virtually every name that everybody knows. But what you find backstage in the green room is that they're just amazing people. And for me, it was just fun to be able to learn how they got to where they were. And it's amazing when you're asking about other people and their path and, their challenges. It's amazing how many people will actually share their challenges with you because nobody's ever asked. And that then endears you, and it goes way past just the business relationship. It becomes a friendship at that point.
Yeah, it's incredible to me how people think that business isn't about friendship and about relationships. And to me, that's how everything is done. I taught that to my children early on. And so my daughter's 25 now. She's got her own little life in Portland, Oregon. And that's how she has created the network that she's developed for herself at a very short age. It's amazing to see her grasp that concept. Of course, when she was 12, she's like, really, Mom, you're gonna take me to a networking group? Yeah. But it's about learning those skills. So even thinking about yourself, and you've got children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, start to not just tell them, but have them experience it. If they can go to a conference, I used to take my kids to the conferences all the time. At 12, I always made them start their own business and have a vendor table, because you're having to shake hands and tell somebody over and over again about what your product is. It's a huge learning skill that I didn't learn until I was like 38. So I'm like, my kids are going to learn it early. So that's kind of the real secret to me, is the connection and then paying it forward. I love it that Scott's always talking about how he connecting somebody and helping them, and I think you're just like that, Sandy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a huge connector. So it's when I meet somebody, I'm like, what is important to them? And then how can I help them with that important thing? So a friend who's amazing, and he just has a book coming out in June. And I'm like, fantastic, let me help you promote your book. And he's like, you're going to help me? And I'm like, I know a few people. And so just saying that, it endears you to somebody, because most people never have anyone ever say that they'll help. And that kind of brings us into BeeKonnected. We love supporting organizations like the Santa Barbara Hub. We were just on last night with the Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We've got all these incredible groups that we're connected with, including our upcoming Global Conversation Amongst Women, which we have 7 different organizations all coming together to have a conversation. It's very cool to think about how do you even connect groups together, right? It takes it to a whole different level. But that's one of the reasons that I started thinking about the whole Be Connected idea. Is I've owned multiple business networking group organizations, sold those, had the Public Speaker Association, sold it. But my whole desire the whole time was, what do you mean you don't know Sandy? How could you not know Sandy Goe? Where have you been? What rock have you been under, right? Somebody that doesn't know Scott Schilling, I'm like, that person really is under a rock. He's like all over the place. It's how do you connect people together? And when I started realizing that that's one of the things I love doing is connecting people, how can I help others do that? And then how can I multiply that out where they're actually helping each other? And that's where the whole Be Connected idea came from. I'm also always working on an app. I've owned website companies, app companies, and I started realizing that, the algorithms of a dating websites, they're connecting people for love. What if we just connect them for business? Because they'll love each other. So that's where Be Connected came in. So I'm going to run through a very quick kind of overview about Be Connected, so that way you can see what we're up to and how are people using our platform to do everything I just talked about, to connect to the biggest connections, to connect with the leaders that are out there, the speakers, the people who have radio shows, TV shows, who have conferences, people that can help you move your business along really quickly. Sound like a plan?
Sounds great.
So first of all, we are now in over 40 countries. I think it's like 47, isn't it, Scott?
I believe that is correct.
And we just launched last year in September. So we're pretty new, but by far, no way are we new, right? I mean, we've got the most amazing people. We have around 3,000 members already, all over the world, mostly here in the United States and in Canada. We do have to give them that, but we're quickly growing in the UK and Europe and all over the place. So here's me, I told you a little bit about my, why I started Be Connected. I did this not alone, because this is such a huge business model that I knew I needed a whole team. So I immediately went to my friend, Mr. Johnny Reed. JR has had my back. Like I've just haven't experienced very many people. Scott Schilling is another gentleman that has always, if I needed something, they were there to help. And I also have a big belief that if I have an idea, it cannot just be my idea. It also can't be from just my personality. So Mr. Reed is a Marine. He's very strategic. He's very analytical and completely different than me. So if I could get him to go, this is a really great idea, I knew I had something really big. So he was like, oh my gosh, this is totally fantastic. Okay, you didn't say totally, but you get what I'm saying. He was like, this is a big business idea. Then immediately we went to Mr. Schilling, and I was like, you've got to be involved with this. I mean, he's spoken on so many stages all over the world, and he's even sold more from stage than most everybody on this planet. So I knew I wanted him to be involved. I asked my friend Tracy Repchek, who has spoken in like 39 countries, has been in Forbes 23 times, won presidential awards. These are the type of people that I wanted to kind of in my inner circle. And we are now in the midst of creating an app. We're in the midst of doing so many really cool things, even groups and things that we can do. Everything is like in huge motion right now. So it's very exciting. So what we're going to cover today is about the Konnection Generator. So that's our incredible tool. It's an algorithm and artificial intelligence, like I mentioned before, about dating apps that is now a business app for us. And so that is our special, unique secret sauce. So we're going to cover what that is. We're going to talk a little bit about tools and membership benefits, world-class coaching. Oh, you're going to be just amazed at that. And then if you want to, you can stick around for an affiliate program that we have, because we know a lot of people want a side gig right now. So we'd love to give you more insight on that. So Sandy, I know that most people are looking for definitely clients, customer leads. What else are your peeps looking for?
Let's see, I think exposure. They have a passion of serving their ideal client, and it's like, okay, how do I reach them? And you know, speaking opportunities I know are limited because of the COVID issue, but meanwhile, we have, you know, the internet, and we have an awesome webinar program at a really deep discount. So I think, yeah, it's mainly exposure, reaching the clients, ideal clients. Yeah. And I really encourage collaboration, and nothing's impossible. We can put together our own workshops or our own conferences. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. And if you think of something, an idea that you want to implement, then we're here to support you. Hope you enjoyed the introduction. Listen in and click the next video. We'll go more into the connection generator and then the other benefits that come with becoming part of BeeKonnected. All right, and then if you want to jump right in, you can go to sandygoe.beekonnected.com. That's BEE and then connected with a K. We'll be in touch soon. Please feel free to connect with us, message us, and we are really truly here for you.